Good afternoon. We are back. UFC back for the 2021 campaign. First fight on ABC. That's right. Today's fight was on Big ABC. We're here to see who should fight who next. This is the Iman Report. It is Saturday, January 16. Hope everybody's having a good afternoon. Thanks for watching. Even though we have NFL playoffs on right now too. I'll be discussing NFL playoffs tomorrow. I'm recording the game while I'm recording right now. So this should be some fun matchups today. Good to see UFC on ABC. Hopefully we see more fights on ABC later this year. Return of fans in Abu Dhabi. They allowed about 2,000 to 2,500 fans inside the new arena in Fight Island, and we anticipate more fans to be allowed into the arena as the year progresses and more people get vaccinated and all that good stuff. The main event was a bloodbath. Oh yes. Max Holloway bloodies Calvin Kattar. This fight was not even close. It was total domination. Holloway just gave Kattar all he could give, and Kattar did his best, but he was just no match for Max Holloway today. Two judges had it 50-43. The other judge had it what I thought I had it 50-42. And the question is going to be, is it going to be enough to give Max Holloway another chance at the belt? That is remain to be seen. Sometime later this year, we will have Alexander Volkanovski defending his title against Brian Ortega sometime in 2021. That should be a really good fight. If it ends up being Volkanovski that ends up being victorious, I'm not sure that Holloway will get that third fight right away. As in terms of if it ends up being Brian Ortega, or Holloway does have a win over Ortega and would likely get the next shot at the belt over against Brian Ortega. So that's where the state of affairs, I think, is at 145. So Holloway's probably going to be hoping for a Volkanovski loss whenever those two guys clash at sometime this year in 2021. It was nice to see fans back in the arena. I think there'll probably be more fans allowed next Saturday for McGregor and Poirier. So that should be a fun, entertaining fight next Saturday. Should be a lot of eyes. Hopefully, as I said, hopefully you get more fights on ABC. But you got to give it to Calvin Kattar, not allowing Holloway to get the finish. The bad news is that Kattar is probably looking at a very lengthy medical suspension. But as I would think, maybe we're starting to see where Calvin Kattar's ceiling is as a fighter. He might be a borderline top 5 fighter at best. But I don't think he deserves any sort of a step down for his valiant effort against Max Holloway. Possibly, I think, a fight that would make a lot of sense. But yeah, here we go. Who should fight who next? As for Max Holloway, if the victor is Brian Ortega, you give Holloway versus Ortega 2, no brainer. If it's Volkanovski, then maybe a title eliminator between Holloway and Zabit Magomed would make a lot of sense. As for Calvin Kattar, there's one fighter that comes into mind for me whenever Kattar does come out of a lengthy medical suspension, and that guy is Yair Pantoja Rodriguez. Pantoja, number 4, Kattar ranked number 6. I don't think he should be penalized too much in the rankings for this loss, but they're close to each other in the rankings, and I think this would be a banger of a fight, putting Rodriguez against Kattar. We would find out a lot about Calvin Kattar against a guy like Pantoja, who could be also 1 or 2 fights away from a title shot. we could find out if Cater is what I'm starting to think he is, a gatekeeper, or is he a contender. In the co-main event, a very fun, entertaining event between Carlos Condit and Matt Brown, Matt the Immortal Brown, on the losing side of this fight. And Carlos Condit, a guy that's looking like he still has something left in the tank. All three judges had that 30-27, and this was no match. Matt Brown looked like a fighter who is probably on the brink of retirement at this point. As for Condit, Condit looks like a legend who might have a little bit left in the tank. His contract is up after this. I would not be surprised if he does return to the octagon. Maybe he has something left to prove. But also he could maybe go to Bellator or PFL if he wants to go, if he really thinks he could make one more run at a title somewhere. I don't know what the terms will be with money, but this will be a very interesting free agency coming up for Carlos Condit. And if he does return to the octagon, let's see where he's ranked on Tapology. Give me a few minutes here. But I would say Condit is nowhere near done at this point in his fighting career. The last two fights have looked great for Carlos Condit. And maybe that long layoff is what the doctor ordered for Carlos Condit. Condit ranked 36 right now according to Tapology. But if he does come back, say, to the UFC, he could likely be fighting guys that are maybe coming off the Contender Series roster or whatnot. But I think a fight that could make a lot of sense for Carlos Condit is maybe he pairs up with the undefeated Shavkat Rakhmonov. That would be a very fun fight. It would be a good litmus test to see where Shavkat Rakhmonov is in the UFC. That's what I think should be next. As for Matt Brown, retire. For the love of steak, Matt Ryan, for the love of God, Matt Brown, please, for the love of God, retire. Third up on the docket today, we had Li Jingliang knock out a returning Santiago Ponzinibbio in the first round. Jingliang may be very underrated at welterweight. Jingliang is a guy that is like right on the outer periphery of the top 15 at welterweight. This win could net Jingliang a top 15 fighter. As for who should be next for him, I'm going to look at the rankings at welterweight. Maybe not somebody on the back end of the top 15 as of right. Maybe have these two fought? I'm going to see. And also make sure this guy doesn't have a fight booked yet either. Nope, it doesn't seem like these two have fought, so that'd be a fresh matchup. But let's see, make sure the guy I have in mind is not booked for a fight just yet. Okay, it is. I would say the winner of Diego Lima and Bilal Muhammad is what should be next for Li Jingliang. This could also be a win that could get Li Jingliang into the top 15 at 170 pounds. As for Santiago Ponzinibbio, this fight would probably be a case of ring rust. Ponzinibbio was ranked before the lengthy layoff, and today he looked like a guy that was rusty and that needs to get back into training mode. Suppose he comes back sooner than later. I think a guy that could maybe make sense for Ponzinibbio in hopefully a bounce back fight for these two fighters is Jeff Neal, a guy who got killed in his last fight. I think Neal and Ponzinibbio are two fighters coming off of bad losses, and this could be a good fight to determine which one of these fighters can get back on track quicker. The fight before that, Alessio Di Chirico knocks out what could be 50 G's, knocks out Joaquin Buckley with a devastating head kick. That probably is going to net Di Chirico 50 G's. And maybe it also means Buckley is nowhere, but also Di Chirico might have saved his job today. He was in jeopardy of being cut before this fight today. Di Chirico had lost 3 in a row and was on the brink of being cut before today. And I think this knockout saved his career and might have revived his career. Di Chirico ranked 40 according to Tapology. As for what should be next for Di Chirico, well, maybe this is where a little lazy matchmaking makes a lot of sense. Punahele Soriano might be the next guy up for Di Chirico. Di Chirico, I think I'll go with that. Fight before that, Punahele Soriano defeats Dusko Todorovic via knockout in the opener on the main card today in the first round. What should be next for... As for Soriano, look above at Di Chirico. Those two should be next. As for what should be next for Todorovic, gotta see where Todorovic is ranked as of right now. Dusko Thunder Todorovic. This is also Todorovic's first loss in his MMA career at this point. Todorovic ranked 54. So he's still a young pup and should maybe take a bit of a step down in his next fight. I say Bavon Lewis is what should be next for Todorovic. Bavon Lewis, also another guy that is coming off of a loss. Now it is on to the prelim card. Jocelyn Edwards beats Wu Yanan 30-27. One judge had it 29-28. What should be next for Edwards? Gonna speed this up a little bit since I want to catch up on the football game here. But La Pantera victorious. La Pantera. This is her first win in the UFC. Ranked 31 at the bantamweight. I say Norma Dumont is what should be next for her. As for what should be next for Wu, Yanan 1 and 3 in the UFC. She could be in jeopardy of being cut after this fight. But if not, she will probably get a fighter that is close to the cut line next for Yanan. Yeah, I'll give her a debutante next. We'll go with either a debutante or cut for Yanan. Fight before that, Carlos Felipe beats Justin Tafa via split decision. 2 had it 29-28 for Tafa, 1 for Felipe, 1 had it 29-28 for Tafa. What should be next for Carlos Felipe? Felipe starting to look like a fighter that's looking to climb the ladder at heavyweight. Felipe ranked 42 according to Tapology. I say give him Chase Sherman. That's what should be next for Felipe. Felipe versus Sherman should be next. As for what should be next for Tafa, Rafael Pessoa should be next for Tafa. The last guy to lose, the other guy that has lost to, he's lost to Tanner Bosa, but yeah, Pessoa and Tafa makes a lot of sense. I think make sure they have not fought each other. No, they've had a fight fall through, so this would be probably the better time to be having Pessoa fight Tafa. So we'll go with that. Fight before that, Ramazan Ameev beats David Zawada via split decision. 2 had it 29-28 for Ameev, 1 had it 29-28 for Zawada. What should be next for Ameev? Ameev, another guy that is knocking on the door of a top 15 ranking at welterweight. Ameev has only lost one fight. He is 5-1 in the UFC. His only loss is to Anthony Rocco Martin. And Ameev maybe climbing the ladder again after this win and could get the winner of Lazzez and Warley Alves makes a lot of sense for Ameev. As for what should be next for Zawada, I'd go with Sergey Honda Kondazko is what should be next for Zawada. As for what should be next for Vanessa Mello, avoids the unemployment line today by beating Sarah Morris. All three judges by a unanimous decision. Two had it 29-28, one had it 30-27. And this helps Vanessa Mello avoid being cut in this fight. And it gets Mello off the schneid in the UFC. What should be next for Mello? Mello ranked 25. I'll go with the winner of Carol Rosa and Nico Montaño. What should be next for Vanessa Mello? As for what should be next for Sarah Morris, Morris now 6-8 in the UFC after today's loss. 6-7. But she is unfortunately 1-5 in her last 6 fights. So that is likely going to mean Sarah Morris, it's time to say adios to you. Goodbye. You're cut. And the first and the opening fight on the prelims, Austin Lingo beats Jason Kilburn via unanimous decision. Austin Lingo 8-1 in the UFC. Getting his first W in the UFC today. And right now, Tapology being stupid. I say the winner of... I'll go with the winner of Alves Trezano should be next for... Is what should be next for Lingo. And as for his opponent, Jacob Kilburn. Jacob Kilburn, 0-2 in the UFC. Fights did not look even close. I say for Jason Kilburn, bye-bye. Go to the regional circuit. You don't have a job in the UFC anymore. Bye-bye. That's what should be next for him. And I forgot to do, and I'll do it in omission, Joaquin Buckley. I omitted him earlier. What should be next for Joaquin Buckley? Buckley 2-2 in the UFC. Good against bad fighters, bad against good fighters. That's what we can say about Joaquin Buckley at this point. And will always be a good highlight reel fighter, but unfortunately he was on the opposite side of the highlight reel today, and I think next for him is Wellington Turman. That's what I got for today. On Wednesday, unfortunately, I'll be at work for this next fight card on Wednesday, but I'll watch it. I'll be recording it and watching it after I get off of work. It will be Michael Chiesa against Neil Magny on a matinee card on Fight Island. That should be a fun fight there. You've got Warley Alves against Mounir Lazzez. Matt Schnell against Tyson Nam. That should be an interesting card. Omari Akhmedov against Tom Breezy. So that should be fun for a Wednesday afternoon card. I will be recording it. And then, of course, we get the big fight on next Saturday. I'll be back on air tomorrow to recap the NFL divisional playoffs. I'm going to go start catching up on the playoffs. Everybody have a great afternoon. Stay safe and stay awesome. Goodbye, everybody. Please be kind and hit that subscribe button.